My name is Antonia, and I do affiliate with American Accreditation Association. I've recently joined them as international surveyor. I'm a huge advocate for data. I truly believe that data gives us a full story if it's done right. It tells us the truth. It helps us bring informed decisions, and actually we get buy-in from the senior team from the top level when we try to introduce changes. And for someone who worked with accreditation bodies before, I fully understand the importance of having proper data management and the levels of data analysis within the service. Today we're going to look at why is okay. Great. So today we're going to look at some operational challenges, and I am seeing these on a daily basis. I just recently joined a company, and it's been a challenge itself. But one thing they will definitely have to work on is the oversight and data analysis and data management overall, because you can really tell, like firsthand, I can tell you that without a proper structure, you're really running all these issues, including regulatory bodies. So you really do need your data to be transparent. You have to have transparency and oversight, because without that oversight that actually data gives you, it's very hard. It's like you're working blind. I always say it's like your hands are tied and you're working blind. And we're going to talk about those challenges. So some of the strategies that I like to use when it comes to data transformation: defining quality, what that means, operational success, holistic approach to data transformation strategy. What do I see as a holistic approach? Case study, a quick case study. I won't be really long on it, but there's a great case study that it actually was like it happened to me, and I kind of want to share it with you how important it is to have a proper systems in place when it comes to data transformation. And then what are the next steps? What I feel would next steps be when you're introducing things like this? And then just a quick key summary for all of us, just kind of recap on the whole journey.
Course.
Um, Let me just move the screen. Great. So what are the challenges? I think you would all agree with me that decision paralysis will be one, and that really is accurate. It's you how do you bring a decision if you don't know the full story? Like how do you do it? With inaccurate data or delayed data reporting, it actually will lead to inconsistency, and it will lead to incorrect decisions. And this is not just lovely saying or lovely words on a paper. This actually happens in real time, and it actually happens more than it should. And I would say, if I had to grade Ireland as a country when it comes to data transformation strategies and operational systems and actually uniting it all to bring a really informative decisions on an executive level, we are still behind. If we're to compare with states, for example, we are still very much behind. And even the knowledge of people, like I could actually do this presentation around the Ireland, and I'm pretty sure people wouldn't know half of the things that we're discussing here today. So it is very important to have that data properly reported, having your people trained, and then obtaining that data will actually give you your trends, and you'll be able you will be able to make those decisions, the right decisions for the operations. Operational inefficiency, again, manual processes and slow down workflows, they never work. And sometimes people do these, they opt for slower workflows, they opt for less good systems, cheaper systems, and they recreate and duplicate data just because they don't have knowledge, they're unsure of the proper management of data, or they just don't know better. And it happened in my previous workplace, and it is happening now, and that's what I'm battling myself as well, trying to raise the awareness with people. So this webinar is like I don't know, like a little, I don't know, like a little show or a little pre-warm session to do it in a workplace, to be honest, because you can still see it out there. It's just people will rather do repetitive tasks than have a proper systems in place, proper data analysis, proper data transformation strategy, and then bring the decision. It seems easier to them when they actually don't understand the concept of data just duplicate and just go the longer way, when in fact it should be very focused. You have to see the full picture, then you'll be able to make the informative decision and very you need to have a focus, simple as that. Without the focus, it just feels like you're going through the little fog. Another thing, financial and reputational risks. Um, Apologies. Uh, Financial and reputational risks, that's a big one. It just make a wrong decision, it could impact your finances. Make a wrong decision could impact your operations, right? And again, reputation with the wrong decisions comes non-compliances. If you're accredited, your re-accreditation status might not go through. If there's a regulatory body that inspects you, you you might have non-compliances. Then again, it will damage your reputations in a community. And I can't even, God, I wish I could emphasize how important it is to have a proper data reported, to not have errors when the data is being looked at, and have a real picture in front of you, regardless how bad is it. Having a truth in front of your real picture, it's the only way to kind of move forward. And then missed opportunities, inability not to spot trends. That's the main reason we do all of this. Is to see the trends, to see trends on a weekly, monthly basis, quarterly basis, even annual picture to tell us how did we do, where can we improve, what can we do better, and actually optimize your resources, allocate the resources, and just anticipate the needs for the organization. Because that is the whole point. That's my favorite part of when I do my data analysis and data management. It's the actual seeing that picture, seeing that data transformed into dashboards and telling you the story. And you're like, okay, what can we do here better? And that is the whole point. So I would say these would be some of the key challenges that I kind of experienced myself. So how do we move past these now? Oh yeah, sorry, it's not the keyboard, it's the screen. So what's the strategy that you would use? So I would call it like a 5 steps systematic plan. I'm sure people would make a 10 step if possible, and that's still okay as long as you kind of follow the main things. And the main things are like how do you collect it? How do you validate the data? How do you normalize the data, if that makes sense? Analysis and like how do you produce the data yourself? And then what's the action and feedback? And whatever you do, whatever you do in audits or whatever you're collecting data for, it's pretty same process. What do you collect? How do you collect it? How do you make sure that whatever you collected, it's right and it's correct? And then how do you present that? What do you do with it? And then again, what's going to be the action if there's anything to action? So I would say this can be applied to any business. This can be applied to any industry. To be honest, this is not just healthcare. I'm pretty sure you could apply this in the finance sector, in a tech sector as well. It's it's the only way that you can look data properly. There's no way collecting data if you're not going to do anything with it. There's no point of collecting data and aggregating the whole thing and then not validating it, not making sure that is a right, that it's collected in the right way, because that's the whole point of validation. And then if you're not going to integrate it and if you're not going to produce reports out of it, what are you really doing with it? You're just sitting there in your, I don't know, call it a data warehouse, and it's just being reported, collected, being collected, but there's no real output, if that makes sense. So we're going to go through each this step individually. I'm going to be talking about what really is data collection, what really is data validation, data normalization, and then analysis and the actual feedback and action at the end. Um, so we're going to dive in. So data collection, I think the name says itself, and it's very simple. It's the foundation, it's the base, it's where you're collecting from your internal and external sources. It's extremely critical this phase because the quality of the data you get here truly will shape the decisions later and the collection process. And there's no like this is like 100% statement that I would always go with. It's the foundation, it's the basis of everything. The way your data gets collected, the source that gets identified, the way they extract data and then transferring the data, it's the key to it's all, right? Without this step being done right, it's um it's kind of a waste of time if you go further and you don't get this right. So whoever is feeding the data in They have to be really trained. So the basis is training your people. And this is where loads of companies go wrong. They would get the systems right, maybe even qualified people in, lovely, pretty, posh systems. They would give the money at it, they would throw the money at it, and they would have some dashboards and things. But at the end, the data just wouldn't, they would action the data, but it would be like not really doing its thing, repetitive each month, the same issues are happening. And the way we do this in healthcare, the way you look at the incidents, the way you look at your audits, it's to help yourself to move forward, to learn, to improve the services. So it's these people that are reporting it, isn't it? It's the people that are actually reporting it. Have you trained them properly? Do they understand the purpose of data collection? Do they know how to do it? Whatever the system they're using, do they know how to use the system properly? Are they trained in audit management, for example? Do they know what audit really is? Like I'm never going to forget, I worked in one of the hospitals in Ireland, same role, similar role, same kind of a field of work. And they had everything. They had a system, they threw the money at it, and they were producing these lovely monthly KPIs. And each month they're discussing the same trends. And you're like, hmm, why? Like, and then each month there's some non-compliances, the same non-compliances. And each month there's the same non-compliances, repetitive non-compliances, actions are being kind of not followed through, and you're like, what is really going on? Because you have this lovely system that, wow, we know how expensive it is. So what really is, and then you dive in and you realize people were never trained properly. People will never, the data that has been collected, it was completely wrong. And that's it. So everything else done after that data that was collected that day or a month, there was no point. It was absolutely pointless because it was painting the whole picture wrong. It was so we had to strip it all down and build it all again. And he was starting from the ground, training the people, and actually not just training them in a software, training them in a meaning of data collection for the particular area and what does it mean and why are we doing it. People have to understand why you're doing it. Otherwise, it's just a tick box exercise. Moving on to data validation. This one is being missed so many times. And I think it's the only services that have accreditation do this right, to be honest. It really is. It gets missed, like people collect it and they move on into, they skip this step and they move on into neutralizing it and then reporting it, getting the dashboards out and kind of actioning it right, but they skip this. And this is a really important. How do you uncover your anomalies? How do you make sure that there nothing was missed? And how do you make sure that whatever has been collected is actually collected in the right way? The source that has been used is the right source. There's no duplication. And this is why my initial example that I just told you, they went wrong. They never did this step. They never validated whatever has been collected. They never validated. They never questioned it. It was just taken on board and decisions were made out of it. And that's where they went wrong because there was no good decision for the maybe whole year. There was no movement. They were just constantly repeating. It was a vicious cycle of just the same repetitive issues. Again, what data validation does, it actually just identified and corrects any errors, inconsistency, and accuracy in the collected data. So basically, you're just improving the data that has been collected or just making sure that the data you're collecting is right. Simple as that. So it's kind of a more reliable way of doing it. It's more reliable reports. Whatever KPIs you're producing are just more reliable. So when you know the data validation is done, it's you're like, I'm on the right track. Like whatever I've collected is right. People can question me, but I know it's right. So how do you do this? I haven't wrote it here, but there's the two methods that people usually do, and you decide what methods you want to use. Are you going to concentrate on bigger input, bigger picture of the data, or are you going to concentrate on a really like date of birth? Is the date of birth right? Has been collected through the right channels? Has been reported in a right way? And are we looking at the same date of birth? So either that small, that tiny, or you just do it on a bigger level. So what that really depends on what you're trying to achieve here. It really depends what your end goal is. You're either going to validate a simple clinical audit, and you're probably going to go with the the very in detail variation, or if you're going to do something on operational level, you're probably going to go into kind of a bigger variation itself, the methodology itself, and you'll be using a different methodology. So usually the main ones that are being used in healthcare, I would say, are two methodologies. But like that's completely another story. So when people are doing this, you do spend quite a lot of time researching it and creating a kind of a dashboards for itself, because you can't apply one methodology to all, if that makes sense. So what would be data integration and normalization? So it's the stage where the clean data, so the one that we just made sure it's, let's call it clean, um, from different systems is combined and structured into unified, coherent view. So normalization involves organizing data efficiently to eliminate redundancy and ensure data dependencies are logical. So it's the way where you start your mapping. You're defining data from separate sources to just one unified model, if that makes sense. So you're creating, instead of all these now single sources, you're going to create one single source of truth. So your data might be coming from all different softwares or all different internal, external. So now you're going to just put it all in a one little basket. Um, God, for core businesses, like I wrote there, service user experience, risk management, quality improvement. So if you're looking on operational issue of, let me give you a really good example here. If you're looking at the if you're looking at the operational quality and safety, right, and you're in a hospital and you're kind of making sure that your quality and safety in a hospital is well. So you're like, okay, all the audits that are being done from all the different service user experiences, one audit, clinical audits, facility audits, risk management audits. How do I bring all these inputs into one single kind of a data warehouse or a lake house, and just to centralize it in a one location and make a story out of it? That makes sense. So you kind of break down all the data, like you will break down all those silos that you used, and you're just going to look at the data from a kind of a central point of view, and you'll be like, okay, that paints the picture for me. So from collecting it to validating it to now just putting it all together in one go and be like, okay, what is data telling me? So you actually, when you're looking at the data, you wanna understand, you wanna read this. Does that make sense? You wanna see the full story. It's like a reading a book. You really want to take a step back and be like, okay, now I'm looking at all of this. Does this make sense? Can I actually make a story out of this? When people ask me, what are we doing and how did we do? Can I tell them a story and back it up with data, back it up with lovely dashboards and, colorful charts and stuff like that? That's the process. Look, when I do my monthly data reports, data comes from everywhere, and I'm like, you're bombarded with it. You're like, oh my God, like like this is here and this is here and this is there, and it's all great, and yes, we're validating it and it's great. But I'm like, how do I make this? How do I make this as a lovely story from start to beginning so people can follow? And that's what this step does for you. The mapping itself, you're mapping your data and trying to make sense of it, if that makes sense. Um, Data analysis. So this will be my, I think, favorite step of data transformation strategy. It's I think everyone has its own. Like I work with a colleague of mine, and she absolutely loved data validation, and I absolutely love data analysis and visit. Like I absolutely enjoy. Um, I think I'm starting to enjoy it from the neutralization step when I'm creating a story, and then to bring it into the analysis so people can actually understand it. And this is, to me, this is very important, because when you produce a complex reports, complex dashboards, when you use charts, and you have to understand that people in healthcare are busy, and you're probably from healthcare anyway. They are busy. They don't have time to really be coding or understanding your charts. You have to tell a really simple story. So regardless of that is complicated or how many issues have been identified, you have to really frame it right. You have to get their attention. So when they open those emails or when they read those KPI reports or whatever charts, whatever system you're gonna use to produce these, you really have to do it like it has to be simple, straight to the point, factual, and you have to get their attention so they keep reading it, because you won't just have probably one chart, you'll have several overviews and analysis. So it has to really be a good story. Like I said, it really has to be a good story. It has to make sense and it has to be straight to the point. People don't like reading long texts, long analysis. They want something to quickly tell them what has been happening, regardless of time frame. You'll be like, but I've been looking at this data for 6 months. How do I tell you this in a, few pie charts and few analysis? But yeah, that's the beauty. I always try to keep the whole thing on just one sheet of paper. It's a hard one, but I won't lie. A few times I went to two and three, but you kind of try to summarize it all in one. So when they open it, it's right in front of there and it makes sense. And that's where I personally love using Power BI myself. I'm not advocating here for Power BI. I just personally very much used to it. It just does the whole thing for me. I don't really have to use different systems to automate the data and then produce the dashboards. So it's yeah, one of my favorite ways of kind of producing the reports and then gathering the whole thing together. So yeah, but I'm sure there's so many other, like wherever you're coming from, I'm sure there's so many other, tools that people can use to kind of achieve this step and go through it. And then again, action and feedback, so kind of a final phase, final step of the data transformation. So translating the data-driven conclusions into concrete changes in business. And this is where you get that buy-in. This is where the way you got your story, the way you framed your story from your data, the way you presented it, it's where now you can get the buy-in, where you can request the changes. And the way you frame the data, it's extremely important because you'll either get the buy-in or you won't. It's simple as that. And some changes might be very little, zero cost. Some might be, bigger. You might be advocating for, significant changes. And it's the way you put this out there for them to understand. Um, Sorry, apologies. And continuously tracking it, it's extremely important. Um, Even when you get the buy-in, or if you don't get the buy-in, there's no point of doing this once and then just off I go. It's done, right? It doesn't work that way. Data has to be collected religiously, regularly, like it's daily. It's being reported daily, it's being inputted daily, externally or internally, or bi-weekly or monthly, whatever you're looking at, the data is being in healthcare inputted daily because we are 24/7. We're looking after patients 24/7. So it's being tracked continuously and your reports are being issued continuously and you keep getting that buy-in each month and people trust you more. Like when you're very consistent with your data analysis, when you're very consistent with telling your story and you're very factual and straight to the point, people start trusting you and taking on board what you're saying. So when you're saying there's a trend in this and we might need to do this and this is the way to avoid this risk, people will start buying in. So it takes time, but it's a process. It really is a process. And is there anything else that I miss here? Feedback loop, using the results of actions to inform changes. I mean, I think I've been saying this for the whole thing, from the data collection to the cleansing, validation itself to producing the reports. Um, it's extreme. There will be times where you will be producing new reports, where you'll be collecting the new data, where you'll be coming with new ideas. And this is what happens when you're so religious in collecting your data and when you're so religious with producing your reports and enforcing management, even the higher management, to be looking at this data monthly and discussing it. You will be coming with new ideas. You will be coming with the um, new data templates. You will be coming with the new data sources that you will be probably, I want to measure this. I want to measure this. I also want to measure this, because you want to get the truth out of the system. Because at the end of the day, you are looking at your systems. So yeah, it's the action and feedback that kind of completes it all, to be honest. Um, let's move on. So defining quality, some of the key metrics, and this was just a little example of when, especially when you do data validation, what are you trying to achieve here, right? So accuracy, how correct and reliable is this data? So what is your target and what really is the current story? What's currently happening? Have all the fields been or data points present? Is the data unified across the systems and departments? So you'll always have your target and what you're trying to achieve, and then where you really are. So whatever target is, you're like trying to be closest to the target as possible. But there are days where you're either over or you're with the same remit or you're just under. Consistency is as I said, is it really unified across the old systems and departments? Timelines, is it really available when we need it, or we have to, and this is what happens when you have manual data, and this is, I absolutely hate paper. Like whoever knows me work-wise knows that I can't stand paper, and unfortunately there's ways around it when companies can afford these systems. These systems are expensive. The lovely tools that we use in data transformation, there's a ways. I worked with services that wouldn't have budget to accommodate these systems. They're ideal. But if I always say, if there's a will, there's a way, and it truly is the case. And I worked for years without the e-systems, and you make it work. Yes, you make it work. Yes, it's a painful process, but you make it work. And it delays you a lot. It doesn't create chaos, because eventually you know your system and you know your manual data and the extraction points, but it's a very long process. And the moment you switch to e-system, it cuts your, Jesus, it cuts your time. Like you could get an extra working day or even two for your monthly analysis, for example, and that's huge. Like I don't even have to put that in words. I'm sure you all understand how big is getting an extra work day just with introducing of an e-system. And again, uniqueness. Is there any duplication in the records? And I think that that's one that's being utilized quite a lot as well. And I would say the accuracy and uniqueness is one thing that I always kind of find are always below the target itself. So oversight is one thing that I also want to emphasize is proper governance structure. Without a proper governance structure, regardless what systems you have in place and how amazing you are with your data transformation strategy and just strategy itself, it's it's a tough one to have that proper oversight, because if you don't have proper governance structure and systems in place, if your data is not centralized, structured, if there's no proper schedule and oversight and understanding who's doing what on what level in organization, it's extremely hard. It really is extremely hard to get you get the data, but the data is not really to be trustworthy, or even the way you're going to collect the data is going to be messy. And it's just, I don't trust that data. I like, even if I produce some kind of reports in a very poor governance cover kind of a governance structure organization, I would always kind of note like this data might not be 100% reliable. So whatever, the trends and the conclusions we might take out of it, they might just not be the real representation of real picture what's out there. So it's extremely important to have that proper governance structure, and that's not just one person, that's the whole team. So but yeah, there's the steps to achieve it. So I'm sure you all in a well managed organizations um achieving operational success. So the tangible benefits of data driven culture. um so whatever we discussed here is a key to making, as I said, improved decision making. So making that decision that you're making, that it's backed, data driven and data backed, that the data that you collected and that helped you to bring the decision, and decision could impact the patient safety, decision could impact, operational safety. The decisions you bring might be really big decisions, and the data you collected, you really want to be sure that it's the right data and it's done right, and it's analyzed, through the right channels, and you're getting the people buy-in, and it really helps you to bring a great decisions, improve decision making, and that's what you want your data to do for you, to help you get the decisions, right decisions, to bring those decisions that will eventually bring operational success. Because without these steps, I can truly tell you, operational success is not there. Regulatory compliance is not there. Compliance with the accreditation body, I don't think it's there, because they're very, very big on data transformation and especially validation of data. I can't even emphasize how accreditation is big on it. So it's extremely important to do the steps right to eventually, you know, bring the right decision. And I think that's what we all try to do on a daily basis. It does enhance apologies, operational efficiency. It really streamlines your processes and reduce the manual effort. And this is what I've been saying. Like when the data is done through the right channels with the right systems, it truly does reduces the manual effort. Sometimes we're not that lucky to work in a company that might be seeing the data as the key factor in bringing decisions, unfortunately, which is wrong. So you kind of spend quite a lot of time going around and around and the manual effort and extracting the data manually and validating the data manually through the long channels. And that really puts a lot of strain on, I would say, quality and safety department if they're the ones that are doing it. Personalized services and proactive support driven by accurate data, absolutely. Couldn't agree more. Proactive identification of operational risks. I mean, when you have a full oversight of the data and you have your lovely reports and your analysis and you know the data is right, honestly, the compliance and the risk mitigation is there. Like your compliance is just, it really is there. Like, um, because the decision that you're going to bring are going to be right decisions. They're going to be pretty much compliant. You'll know what you're doing and you'll have a full picture. And when you have a full picture, there's no way you can go wrong. Like, and if the team has a right picture in front of them, there's, brainstorming, but with the right data, there's no way the team can make a wrong decision. And that brings the compliance just right there. And the risk mitigation is, your risk just, even though you might have high risks, they're there and they're true and that you haven't missed anything. And that's what I like. The worst feeling I have is when I feel that I'm missing things and that I'm blind and that I don't see things right in front of me. And that's what happens when you don't have structure and a proper strategy in place. And then the increased profit. I'm sure that with the better customer experience and with the compliance just there, high 90s, your profit will increase, your reputation will be right, and people will be coming to your hospital, to your clinics, to your nursing homes or whatever you work. Um, and it all comes with that right informed decision making. So it all really ties up together. A holistic approach to data transformation. So as I said in the beginning, people, your processes. So you want to make sure that people are trained. That's the first step. You have to get it right. That the processes that you have are in place, robust, and you have your governance ready, and there's regular audits and operating procedures and policies that are all being followed, so people are following your processes. And the third one is essential to make sure that full oversight of collected data is available, that you know what's going to happen each month. Some things you can't predict, but in terms of like audits and the data that's being reported, that you actually know each month like what's due and what's going to happen. Even some mock surveys that you might not schedule or schedule, they might come along the way, and there will be a certain schedule in place. So it's really important to know what's happening on organizational level to make sure that you do have that full oversight, because otherwise, I said, it's very hard to aim and have goals in place. Process usually fail when there is no structure, and this is so true. To collect data or analysis and have a clear understanding of data cycle, you have to have a structure in place. Without a really good governance structure, these things will fail. And technology utilizing state-of-art tools for data management, validation, monitoring, and analytics, it's extremely important. Doing these things without proper tools and doing a manual work, I can tell you, oh, it is painful. So having that buy-in, having that knowledge to present this to your senior management teams and advocating for the technology, it is really important. Like otherwise, you're probably never going to get the sign off because they won't just understand it. It's like not important to them. They'll be like, I'm sure you could do the work. So it will be really hard to do it right way if you do the whole manual thing. And it's very draining as well. So we have to take care of ourselves. So case study, just a quick one, just some quick win. And it was not a quick win, but I like to call it a quick win in a quality and safety department. There was an issue with incident and audit management systems. They were very poor. Compliance was very poor. And when it comes to risks and safety, you just feel like we were very exposed. We had inconsistent, incorrect, and delayed data that led to frequent non-compliances when it comes to serious incident reporting to regulatory body. We were just non-compliant, and that's a huge one. If you work in healthcare, and I'm sure you all do, that will be a big one. So what do? We had no money to implement lovely posh systems. They all cost quite a lot. So the way we found a way to work around is we automated data with the Microsoft Office, and we utilize heavily Excel sheets, and we created automation and the formulas through Excel, and the Microsoft Office had some systems that you could get through your licenses, and we managed to implement our own kind of a quality and safety system. Even though it was the basics of basics, it truly worked. And then when it comes to audits, we did so the kind of internal one was just to kind of manage incidents. So we had to do it. We had to put our hats together and figure this out for a very low budget. And then when it comes to audits, we eventually got the buy-in and we managed to source the software. It was the most basic software on the market. And both systems implemented together and when people were properly trained and when because people just didn't know what any of this means. The outcome was huge. Like we were, when it comes to regulatory compliance, we were really, really high. Like it was, we just never missed any deadlines, and that's how great it was. And this was all like, I would say within the first 3 months you could see the difference. But then when it comes to data accuracy and the whole kind of reporting and the knowledge of the staff within the 6 months everyone's on board. People couldn't even remember the old practices, so it just shows you when you train people right and when you get people on board and buy in, and when you present the case properly and you do your systems right, regardless are they expensive or not, or they're very basic, it truly has a great outcome. So that's the whole point of data transformation. It's looking at the data and then you feel your patients are more safe. You feel the quality of care you're giving is good because now you can actually track it. And whenever there's an issue, in your kind of a care process, you can act on it. And that's what makes the whole healthcare safer, the hospital safer. So it was truly like, it was remarkable. It was honestly like, it was such an enjoyment to see that after the full year being done, it does make you feel safer and it's more enjoyable to be working in that environment. So that was truly a great case that we achieved. So next step, so how do you have to engage your leadership? None of these initiatives happen without people's buy-in and commitment. You have to prioritize. You select one core process for initial data transformation pilot. You don't go full on. You don't implement six different modules or six different, you start with one small step. You get one module right and then you move on and you develop a roadmap. You have to know what your goal is, where your ultimate goal is, and then you start building towards it slowly. And then you empower a team. The training is huge. People on the ground, people like housekeeping, nurses, carers, like people who are not management team, they really have to be on board with you because they're the key people in the data collection process. To that first initial stage, they're the key people. So you do have to make them passionate about it, make them understand that this will make the work easier eventually, that the decisions that you bring will actually benefit them. So people have to feel involved in a kind of decision to move forward. And summary, I'm pretty sure I already gave summary, but transforming the data, collecting the data, working with the data itself, it really is a mindset, cultural mindset, and people really have to be on board with you. When you ensure data quality at every stage, you truly do have advantage. When you compare yourself to other hospitals and other clinics and companies or organizations, and you do have the strategic advantage because even if you don't want to compare yourself to them, you do know that you're a good place. You have the full transparency of what's in front of you, and that you can bring the decisions that will actually benefit patients. And one of the key takeaways is quality in and quality out. So the data that's accurate, consistent, and timely data, and that you can rely on it. So whatever comes in and whatever comes out, that you can truly rely on it. So whatever data gets filled in, whatever data is collected from externally that gets into the system, it's reliable, and the one that comes out, the decisions that come out of it, reliable as well. Uh, Data will help you achieve your operational success. Maybe not immediately, but eventually will. It takes time. It always takes time. But when you're when you're consistent with it, it will build up itself. And it just continuous improvement. And it truly is the whole cycle of the data management is truly continuous improvement. because through every single step that we went through, the 5 steps that we went through, you spot the things, you spot the trends, you spot the errors maybe, and you can actually improve on those things. So we do have to be committed to it, and when you're committed to it, things will happen. It might take a while, but things will happen. So that's it. Like if you have any questions, I'm more than happy to answer them.
Thank you so
Great.
much for all and wish you a great evening. Thank you so much, Antonia, for your time. We wish you a lovely evening. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Bye
See you
bye.
soon. Bye bye.